Hello, all my peepers. Welcome to Shalene's Creativity Room. Today is a Stitch with Me and a book. We are stitching on the Supernatural Stitch Along by the Witchy Stitcher. And today's book is Runaway Girl by Emma Talon. This is the first book of the Anna Davis series, and there's 4 or 5 books altogether. They are a organized crime thriller. So, Runaway Girl by Emma Talon. I will read you the description of the book. You have to fight for the ones you love. Anna Davis has spent years terrified of her sadistic gangster boyfriend, right up until she runs away in the dead of night. She's frightened he will kill her, and she knows he still will if he ever finds her. As Anna starts her new life, she meets 2 strangers who will change her fortunes forever. Tanya Smith is a gorgeous East London stripper with a big heart. Anna loves Tanya's attitude to life, and the pair quickly become inseparable and business partners. And East End Baron Freddie Tyler is everything Anna's ex-boyfriend was not. He's kind, caring, and would do anything to make Anna happy. But are they both telling Anna the truth about who they really are? Just as Anna begins to see a brighter future for herself, her past comes back to haunt her. She could be about to lose everything, even her life. But she's a different person now. She's got something to live for, and she's not going to give up without a fight. Okay, this came out March 18th, 2017 by Bookatour. And the link will be below for this book. Will be my Amazon affiliate link. So let's get started. Prologue. Anna ran as fast as her aching legs would carry her. Her heart pounding so large she was sure it could be heard for miles. She glanced over her shoulder as she ran and tripped over a stone. With a cry, she fell, the 2 heavy bags on her back slipping and yanking her onto her side. A sharp pain shot up her calf, and she stifled a yell. She looked down and saw blood begin to trickle out of a gash on her shin. She left it. If she stopped, she would suffer much worse than this. Terror took over, and she ignored the searing pain, getting back up and moving forward at a pace almost as fast as she was going before. This was it. This was the moment that would change everything, for better or for worse. If she made it there without being seen, if the car was where she had told Ellen to leave it, she might just escape and make it out of there alive. If the car wasn't there, though, then she was dead. That was a certainty. If one thing went wrong now, he would kill her. Her lungs burned under the weight of the bags that carried her whole life, but she pushed through determinedly. She ran down the side of the house in which she had been held prisoner for so long. Brambles tore at her skin and clothes, and tree roots tried to trip her up again and again, but still she ran forward. She could see the break in the bushes up ahead, at the back of the wall. It led to a dead-end street where hardly anyone went. It was here that her friend's car should be waiting, the keys on the front wheel. She prayed the keys were still there and that the engine didn't fail. It had been there for a week, while she waited for a small window of opportunity to get away. Her heart leaped, and her skin tingled in horror as she heard the unmistakable creak of the electric front gate behind her. He was back. She stifled the sob that escaped her mouth between unfit gasps of air and pushed forward for all she was worth, through the gap in the hedge and onto the street. Branches scratched at her face and left a few small leaves in her dark hair, but all she cared about was the car parked across the road. She ran over and dumped the bags next to it, falling to her knees by the front tire. She ran her hands over it and gasped. They weren't there. The keys weren't there. No, 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 this can't be happening, she sobbed in panic. Crawling quickly round to the other side, she grappled under the arch. Her hands knocked something against something hard and cold, and the set of keys jangled to the tarmac. Thank God. She grabbed them and quickly unlocked the car. Glancing back for a second, she listened. She couldn't yet hear anyone running towards her, but that didn't mean they weren't looking for her. It wouldn't be long before he found her gone. She hoisted the bags into the back of the car and jumped into the driver's seat. With shaking hands, it took her a few precious seconds to get the key into the ignition. She turned it with bated breath and shouted in momentary elation as the car roared to life. With one last terrified glance at the house, she put her foot down and with a screech pulled away down the road. Her heart thundered in her chest as she stopped at a red light. She wasn't out of danger yet. If he found her, he'd torture and kill her. Frustrated, frightened tears filled her eyes as they flickered between the red traffic light and the rear-view mirror. She trembled more with every second that passed. This was it. He was going to find her. She had come so far, and it was all for nothing. Come on, please, she begged under her breath. A car came into view in the distance behind her. Was it him? The lights turned amber, and she slammed her foot onto the accelerator. She wasn't waiting to find out. She lurched forward and joined the fast crowd of cars on the main road. Pressing her foot down, she sped away, overtaking everyone she could in the fast lane. As a minute ticked past on her watch, the world rushed past her, and the horrors of her previous life were left further and further behind. She slowly let it dawn on her. She had done it. She had actually done it. She had escaped. But he was still out there, and by now he would know she was gone. There was no way he would accept this. He wasn't made that way. He was evil to the core. Now that she had defied him and escaped his cruelty, he would never stop. He would hunt her down, and when he found her, he would kill her. There was no doubt about that. She shivered. Yes, she had escaped him, and yes, she was alive, but for how long? Chapter 1. There she was again, that girl. She had moved in last week, renting a room in one of the buildings Freddie owned. He had watched her struggling along the path with her boxes, traipsing up and down on her own, from the back of the battered old Astra. It annoyed him that no one around had offered to help the girl. If he hadn't been in the middle of a business meeting in the cafe across the road, he would have helped her himself. That would soon have put the loitering bums surrounding her to shame and put a fire up their arses. It would be deep shame indeed for them to be seen by Freddie Tyler doing nothing to help a young girl struggling on her own. Obviously, they had no idea he was in the vicinity, but Freddie often preferred it like that. It was a good way to suss out what people were really about. She had disappeared by the time he'd finished his meeting that day. He had scanned the high-rise building with a critical eye, wondering who exactly was subletting a room out. There wasn't much Freddie missed in his various businesses. His intelligent head was full of all the details, large and small, and he had a good firm of people in his employ to remember anything that he forgot. The flats were one of his less nefarious businesses, the paperwork all above board. There were too many dwellings to know who lived there exactly, but he would have been made aware of any new tenancy contracts being drawn up. She was walking up the road towards the same building again now, arms full of shopping bags, barely able to peek over the top. She wasn't paying much attention to where she was going, her eyes unfocused as if in a daydream. She most certainly wasn't aware of the man standing just across the road appraising her. As he watched, one of the bulging bags tore a little at the side, and a net of oranges fell out, along with a bag of flour, which promptly exploded on the pavement, covering her legs in a shock of white powder. Her eyes flew wide open, and her mouth formed a little O of surprise as she stopped and bent over the bags to check her legs. She looked at the oranges and then back at the bags, trying to figure out how to get them without everything else spilling all over the road. Freddie stifled a grin at the comical scene and quickly jogged across the road to help. "I think you'll have to put some of these down to roadkill," Freddie said. The girl laughed, looked up, and knocked Freddie Tyler for 6. Her dark blue eyes sparkled as she laughed and were cloaked by a fringe of dark lashes. He felt himself hesitate, frozen for a second. It wasn't that he hadn't seen pretty girls before. He had. Of course he had. They were forever throwing themselves at him, desperate for the lifestyle and status that came with Freddie Tyler. But they all looked the same. The fake blonde hair, the fake orange skin, the fake plastic eyelashes, and the fake plastic tits. This girl was different. She was natural. "Thank you." Her voice was quiet, melodic. She pushed a stray strand of thick, dark hair behind her ear and continued to pick up the oranges. The sparkle had gone from her face now, and though a smile remained, she looked sad. She looked vulnerable for a moment, but then that seemed to disappear, and her expression became guarded. Freddie searched for something to say to her, but for once he really couldn't think of anything. This was a new sensation for him. He was never lost for words. It was one of the things that kept him on top in sticky situations. He laughed at himself slightly. They stood up together as she dropped the last of the oranges in the bag and loitered for a moment, smiling, under an awkward silence. "I'd better." "Oh, yeah, of course. I'll carry these up for you." He motioned towards the bags in his hand, but she shook her head. "Oh, no, really. Thank you for helping me, though. I appreciate it. I've got it from here." She smiled up at him again tightly, and he realized she probably didn't want him to know where she lived. It was a sensible move, really. He was a complete stranger, after all. Single Girl Preservation Guide 101. Don't show strangers your home address. He decided he liked that about her. She seemed sensible, careful, the one and only thing he knew about her so far. He smiled as he handed over the bags, realizing he had assumed she was single. Maybe she was the bird of one of the men living in the building. That would explain why he didn't know about her. Birds didn't really count. He really hoped that wasn't the case. Not that it mattered, but she had something about her that the rest of the girls around here didn't. She spoke differently, too, more gently somehow, like she'd been brought up with a bit of class. His eyes flickered over his surroundings. She definitely didn't grow up around this gaff. It showed, even in the cut of her clothes. They were decent, well-made, fitted, skirt not too short, not showing too much cleavage. He realized that this was the biggest difference. She was so out of place. What is she doing in an area like this? He watched her walk away and raised his hand as she glanced round to smile before walking through the front door of the building. It wasn't that he didn't like it round here. He wasn't ashamed of it or anything, but this area was for a different cut of people, harder people. People used to a certain way of life, the kind of life a girl like that certainly would never have been introduced to. He shrugged and went back to the silver Mercedes parked across the road. It was parked on double yellow lines. That wasn't a problem. there wasn't a parking warden in the whole of East London who didn't know his car and would have the bare-arsed stupidity to give him a ticket. Maybe he was wrong about the girl. Maybe appearances were deceiving. Either way, she was gone now, and he was more than a little confused at the effect that a complete stranger was having on him. He had to stop thinking about her. Tonight was a big night for him, and he had important business to attend to. Chapter 2. Anna closed the front door of the tiny two-bed flat she now shared with a girl called Tanya, and exhaled wearily. She called out to see if she was home and went through to the kitchen when there was no answer. It was small up here, but she had to admit it was cozy, and that was all she needed at the moment. In a way, she really didn't care where she was, just as long as it was somewhere that she could start again and forget everything. Well, perhaps not forget. She still had to be careful, but somewhere that she could at least stay lost and move on with her life. Just over a week ago, she had been in her car driving blindly for hours down roads she didn't know, with no idea where she was going or what she was doing. Her heart had been pounding and her eyes sporadically filled up with tears of anguish. That she had even got as far as getting lost was an unexpected achievement. She had expected to be dead already, or at least expected to have been caught, and then, well, she didn't want to think about what would have come next. Somehow, through the twists and turns of traffic and fate, she had ended up here. She had been at a patrol station and was walking back to her car when she'd heard a row going on between a young couple in the car next to hers. As she'd unlocked her door, she'd seen the woman jump out of the car and slam the door. The driver had screeched off as the woman yelled expletives at a pair of fading taillights. Anna had paused, wondering if the girl was okay. The stranded girl had stopped and felt her pockets, swearing again, to herself this time. Shit, my bag. Oh, Christ. Anna had looked around worriedly, then, deciding she couldn't ignore the situation, walked over to the girl. Are you okay? The girl had glanced up at her, running her manicured hands through her long red hair, clearly agitated. Not really. That was my bloke. Well, ex-bloke, really. Stupid arse has buggered off with my handbag in his car. I ain't got my purse, phone, nothing. She'd sighed heavily. It's gonna be a long, bloody walk home. Well, Anna hadn't known the girl from Adam, but she couldn't just leave her there. She could have been attacked or anything. Do you live far? Not really. Only about 10 minutes away. Driving, that is. Walking is another matter. The girl's thick East End accent had shone through her irritated tone. Well, I'm not in a hurry to get anywhere. I could drop you off if you need a lift. The girl had looked her up and down warily. I'm not an ex-murderer or anything, Anna had said with a laugh, her eyes crinkling at the corners. I just feel bad leaving you here, and it's no skin off my nose driving an extra 10 minutes. Well, if you're sure you don't mind, that would be really helpful, thanks. Mate, the girl had smiled, brightening up her face and showing small, white, even teeth behind her carefully applied lip gloss. I'm Tanya, by the way, and that was where it had begun. Tanya had invited her in for a cuppa to say thank you for the lift. At first, Anna had thought it best to refuse and continue her journey, but the thought of a comfortable seat and a hot drink was too tempting after being in the car for so long. The pair got chatting easily, and before long, Anna had explained that she was looking to relocate. Where to? Actually, I don't really know yet. She'd stiffened up, worried that she had said too much. Tanya had seen the panic run across her face and rushed to calm her. It's okay. You don't have to tell me anything. We all have our secrets. She'd smiled and busied herself tidying the coffee table, and Anna had immediately felt bad. This girl had been nothing but kind to her, and she must sound terribly rude. Sorry, it's not you. I just don't like to talk about certain things. It's silly, really. No, it's not, mate. Seriously, don't fret about it. Anna had relaxed a little and sipped at her tea. So, forgetting all the previous crap, you must have somewhere in mind that you want to go. Somewhere near family or friends? No. Her voice had come out a little too strong, so she softened it. No, I want to try somewhere new. Nowhere too special or expensive, she'd added. Just somewhere I can be a little independent. And you have absolutely nowhere in mind, not even short term? Tanya's face had looked comically appalled at the idea. No, Anna had laughed. Not exactly the best thought out plan in history, is it? Where's all your stuff? In my car. You're lucky. Another bag full of stuff and you'd have been walking home. They'd laughed together. Well, okay then. Tanya had paused and pursed her lips. After a moment, she nodded to herself. I guess you're lucky, too. My spare bedroom is, well, it's going spare. Can't let you sleep in your car, especially not filled with all that junk. Anna had stopped and put her cup down on the newly cleared coffee table. Are you serious? Yeah, why not? It's empty, and I need to rent it out, really. My previous flatmate only went and got herself engaged and moved out, leaving me on me, Jack Jones. Why don't you stay tonight? Have a think on it, and if you want the room, you can move your stuff in tomorrow. Wow, Tanya, that's so generous of you. No, not generous, mate, just sensible. You'll have to pay half the rent and bills. You are good for the money, aren't you? She'd asked as it suddenly occurred to her. Yes, Anna had replied quickly. I have some savings, so I'm fine for a while, but I will need to find a job at some point. Well, that's not a problem. Tanya had waved her hand dismissively. I can find you one of those easy. How about we go week on week to begin with, and then we'll see how it goes, yeah? Luckily for both of them, they had got on pretty well so far. Anna was the perfect housemate, and Tanya respected Anna's wish not to discuss why she had turned up in an unknown part of London in the middle of the night with nothing but a car full of clothes. Anna busied herself putting the shopping away and started on making dinner as she checked the calendar on the kitchen wall. Yep, Tanya was working tonight, so it would just be her. She would leave a plate to warm in the oven for when her flatmate got home. Tanya was always ravenous when she got home and adored Anna's cooking. She was constantly remarking that she had never eaten so well in her life. This Anna had to believe, as in with just a few days of eating her food, Tanya's wan complexion became rosier and her face less drawn. Anna looked out the window nervously at her car. It worried her that it was in full view while it was parked, though she had gone to painstaking lengths to ensure he wouldn't be able to trace it to her. Placing the slightly bruised oranges in the fruit bowl in the lounge, she grabbed her mug of tea and sat down in the comfy armchair, thinking about the man who'd helped her. He had swooped out of nowhere like a guardian angel, big, well-dressed, handsome, and ready to rescue her when she had no hands free. She knew she struck out here. That's why she tried to keep herself to herself, not attracting any attention. She knew she was probably an easy target for anyone looking to take advantage. A greenie, as Tony and his men would say, but that man seemed different. He talked just like everyone else around here, but he also looked different, like she did. He was wearing a sharply cut suit, his hair had been styled nicely, and he'd had a quietly confident air about him. Odd for this area. Well, whatever his story, it had been nice of him to help her. She couldn't help but remember how his easy smile had made little creases at the corner of those piercing, laughing eyes. It was a beautiful effect. She caught herself smiling and shook her head. She had no business thinking about men right now. She was definitely not in the right place in her own head for men of any kind, especially after all she'd been through with the last one. It would be a long time before she could be convinced to trust anyone like that again. Anna picked up her book and slowly but surely lost herself in the world of another, forgetting about Freddie Tyler completely. The dream she had that night reflected nothing of her encounters that day. And that's it for today. Like I said, the book is Runaway Girl by Emma Talon. It's the first book of the Anna Davis series. My review, I gave it 4 stars. So Anna has run away from a very verbal and physical, abusive boyfriend. She knows if he finds her, then he will kill her. Anna meets up with Tanya and moves in with her and starts to get her life straightened out. But Anna's ex, Tony, is not about to let her get away. He is a gangster and has his men looking for her. Anna meets a new man, Freddie, who is also a gangster but does not treat women the way Tony does. He also is afraid to tell Anna what he is. Anna has never told Freddie about her past either, and also keeping things from Tanya. As Tanya and Anna go into business together and buy a club and turn it into a tastefully strippers club with no sex involved with the clients, she is afraid Tony will find her. He is also threatening her parents and showing his true colors to them, which they have always suspected about him anyways. As things are looking good, Anna's past comes back and her life is in danger. She will not give up without a fight. So I could not put this book down. I've read the whole series and the spin-off series. I'm caught up on that. In fact, the new book for the spin-off series comes out this month also. And I do have that to read. So again, the link to this is down below in the description. It's my Amazon affiliate link. I hope that you enjoyed this book. I don't usually agree with mobs and gangs, all that scene. But this Freddie Tyler, I absolutely fell in love with his character right from the beginning all the way through the whole series. He is just one of those that shows you that family is everything, and family is even not blood. If you are faithful to him and his family, then you are in for life, and he will treat you the way that you should be treated. So I love this series. I get hooked as soon as it comes out. I need to read it. So again, Runaway Girl by Emma Talon. Thank you everybody for watching and listening. I really appreciate it. And Wednesday will be another Stitch with Me and a book. And don't forget, if you have anything that you want me to read, please let me know in the comments below. I will read and review it, and then we will read it on here. Thank you all. Love you guys. Bye-bye.